All right. And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Lion Show. I'm your host, your favorite business coach, Robert Lyon. Today we have a great pleasure of talking to Marc Guberti. He's a influencer. He's a Wall Street Journal bestseller. He has students in over 180 countries that are enrolled online on his online courses. His podcast is called Breakthrough Success, and he's just a really cool guy. I've started following Marc on YouTube a while ago. So everybody listening, everybody watching, be sure to go check out his YouTube channel. And Marc, why don't you kind of introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody who you are and what you're up to?
Robert, thank you so much for having me on your show. As you mentioned before, I host the Breakthrough Success podcast. I wasn't always a podcaster. I was more into blogging very early on. I started at 11. That built up to over 30 books. And it's been a really fun journey. It just started from writing and it really built on from there.
Nice, man. Well, I think you're kind of similar to me where you're kind of doing a lot of different things. So just out of curiosity, like what's really working well for you right now, or what's kind of got you excited right now?
So right now, the two areas that I'm really excited about are Medium and YouTube. I've been writing a lot of content on Medium, and that's a great place where it's one of those few places where they push you out your content and they pay based on the quality of the content rather than a pre-existing audience. And you can use Medium to grow your audience a lot as well by having something at the end that encourages people to subscribe to your email list. And YouTube's also been working really well, just like with the algorithm and a lot of my videos picking up. So there's a lot of things I'm excited about within my overall business, but those are the two things that I'm a little more excited about lately.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we'll probably nerd out about YouTube in a minute, but tell me more about Medium, man. That's pretty cool. So how do you get paid?
So Medium has a bunch of users on their platform. Some of them are free, like they don't pay anything, but they get limited access to articles. But there are a lot of people who they will pay $5 a month to get unlimited access. So when those people read your articles, they are giving you engagement and you're making the Medium platform great by giving those users something to engage with. So then at the end of each month, Medium takes some of their revenue from all those people who pay $5 a month and they distribute it to the writers. So the more views you get and the more people who read your content, the more revenue you will end up making from Medium.
That's so cool. So what kind of articles are you writing on there?
I do a lot of personal finance on Medium. So a lot of like investing best practices and stuff with stocks. Like stocks are my primary focus. I talk about real estate a little bit, but I don't touch it as an investment. But that's just a little bit of what I primarily focus on for Medium.
That's awesome. I'm just curious, like, do you transcribe the articles at all, or do you write it all? You're a pretty big writer, so I'm just curious.
I write all the articles. Like I don't do any of the transcribing. Like transcribing is really good for some people, but I'm able to sit down, crank out a 1,000 word article, and the transcribing, like you gotta wait for someone to transcribe it or use some type of software. Then you gotta edit and like format it. Like the paragraphs with transcriptions, you can have like 10-line paragraphs just because that's how it works. But for an actual article, you only want like a 2 to 3 line paragraph tops just because of how people consume content. So I'm okay with just writing them out from start to finish. Transcriptions, they do make sense for some people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I would do because I would love to be like an epic writer, but I just talk better than I can write. So, how long have you been writing on Medium?
Medium, I actually got on very recently. So I've been on and off on Medium before, but something made me go back into it like less than a year ago. Like I've only been writing a daily article on Medium for a year, but I saw some traction with my initial articles, even though I did zero promotion for them whatsoever. This was entirely based on Medium and the audience they had on their platform. So to me, it just made a lot of sense to continue on this platform. And it's been working really well. Like the articles have been taking off, but also I'm able to grow my email list as a result of writing all these articles.
Yeah, that's killer, man. That's so cool. So, are you doing like articles on the YouTube videos you're making too? Like, so like all the research can go into an article, or how's that look?
So normally I used to have Medium and YouTube as separate entities where I would talk about investing. YouTube would be more about like specific stocks, while Medium would be more of the investing principles. But I have experimented with writing a whole Medium article based on research from one of my YouTube videos. So then I published the Medium article a few days after the YouTube video because I want the YouTube to go out first. But by writing the Medium article, I do all of my research for the YouTube video. And for something like stocks, it's more research intensive than just like 5 ways to sell more books or something to that effect.
Yeah, well, I could see how if you're writing articles for each stock, like, and you're doing the research, like that's a cool, like the kind of niche that you're getting in there, man. That's pretty awesome. Uh, so yeah, I noticed like you did the shift. You were kind of just all about what is it? self-publishing books and then podcasting and YouTube. And then now you've kind of shifted to stocks. Have you noticed, did you do it and you did it at a good time because you did it before all this GME and AMC and all that noise, but everything's kind of picking up. So I'm just curious, did you see that's something you wanted to do, or did you get a lot of engagement, or is it just all kind of coming together?
I mean, I still love talking about self-publishing and all that stuff. I do that in other places, but for YouTube, this was an algorithm decision. I looked at my data. I had experimented. I did a video like the math behind making $100,000 per year in dividend investing. What does that look like with drip, dividend growth rate, stuff like that. But I saw that video did very well. And I was like, I saw this investing video did well. I know there are a lot of investing channels that do very well on YouTube. I initially created a side channel where that was going to be the investing channel. And I'd talk digital marketing, self-publishing on my main channel. But once I saw that side channel start to take off, I was like, let's just transition this over to the current channel, because a lot of people still want the investing content. And I slip in some digital marketing insights as well, because it's just so much easier to, and again, this is where some of this stuff is niche specific, where you need news topics to if you talk about breaking news, it helps. And for stocks, anytime an earnings date is coming up, that's breaking news. So every day you have a big breaking news item. So for me, it made sense to make that jump. The analytics were telling me to do it. I created videos to test the concept and those took off. So all the data really leaned me into that direction.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm always trying to grow an audience, and my whole show is kind of just adding value to the listeners and empowering them and giving them tactics and things to live a better life. But I kind of have to force feed it to them sometimes, So I'm always trying to figure out how to make an easier way to get more eyeballs, get more attention. So I've been kind of thinking about not necessarily doing all stocks, but just doing trends. I would wake up, early, look at the trends, and then I'd make a real quick trend video every day. And I wanted to see if that's going to really take off. It's just interesting with YouTube how the algorithm works. It's really good that you want to stay relevant. I come from SEO, so I always wanted to I want to rank every video, but then it's so time consuming. It's almost better just to keep up and try and stay ahead of everybody. What have you found is just really working? What do you think?
I mean, I just create a lot of videos based on different stocks, and I see which videos are gaining the most momentum, and I see what people are commenting, and I just build on from there. I mean, a big part of this transition again was before I started talking about investing on my channel, I would be really happy if my video had a 5% click-through rate. But now I would be very disappointed if my video has a 5% click-through rate, because the thumbnail I use, it's very you look at my channel and it's pretty much the same thumbnail where it's just me with the same expression on my face and just the stock. It's very you're not going to see much variety, but it gets me an 8 to 10% click-through rate. And I don't want to play with that. That's a very good space to be in. So yeah, there's a lot of data that goes into YouTube. But I mean, if you just crank out videos, you look at your reach section to see how are people finding you, and then you look at your click-through rate and average view duration, that's pretty much all the data you need to start making good decisions on YouTube.
Yeah, that's how you can really kind of blow up. I've definitely seen your channel grow too since you started doing the stock stuff. And it's cool because you have comments that getting comments from all your videos helps you build it, because then you can make more videos for people commenting and things like that. So that's cool. Has your podcast blown up since you kind of started doing stock stuff too?
So I haven't really linked the two yet. It's more of, it's in my, behind me, there's the logo. There's subtle references to the podcast, but it has expanded on its own right. The two most recent months, those were the two best ever in terms of downloads. So the podcast has been able to take off just based on more people shifting into podcasting, more people hearing about me. I'm sure there are plenty of people who they go on my YouTube, they find me for the first time, and then they check out my other platforms. So it's not like I'm directly saying, check out the Breakthrough Success podcast and tracking that, but I have seen an increase in my downloads.
Yeah. I mean, but you're sharing stock tips on your podcast too, right?
That's more of the digital marketing, self-publishing stuff I was doing before I made the shift to stocks is primarily YouTube and Medium.
Yeah. I would experiment with stock stuff on your podcast, because I did one podcast about the GameStop thing going on, and that one got 10,000 downloads, and it was my most downloaded episode. So there's definitely listeners that want to hear stock tips. So I would just try maybe checking into that.
Wow. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't expect it, but it was buzzing, and I did it right kind of when it happened. So it just kind of all worked out. So yeah, man, I think you're growing an awesome audience. Let's talk a little bit about how you're looking at stocks. What's actually working for you, or how do you go about it?
So each investor has like different criteria what they go for. I like to go for growth. So I'm going for the stock that could appreciate very nicely over the past few years. So I'm not looking at a stock like AT&T where a lot of people see that just for the dividend and they just hope the price stays flat and they get their 7% yield. So when I go for growth, I'm looking for a stock that has grown its revenue 20% or more each year. I just want to see that there's consistent growth, there's more catalysts along the way. And I also like my favorite metric is price to sales. That's more appropriate for the growth stocks, while like a PE or a price to earnings ratio, you see that more from value investors where they're looking at something like an AT&T. But the price to sales, that's what I look at the most. If it's relatively low compared to other competitors, I usually go for it. Price to book is something I also look at closely. It's more of a bonus metric. But just based on doing that, 20% or more revenue growth is the big thing I focus on. And narrowing losses if it's not profitable, or increase profitability if the company is already bringing in some profits.
That's cool, man. Are you finding some pretty good success trading?
Yeah, I'd say going pretty well so far. I mean, a lot of stocks are doing well at this stage of the
Yeah.
game just based on everything that's going on. And if you have a really good day, like you got to try and stay humble also, because
Mhm.
like your portfolio goes up and beats the market a few days in a row. And it's like, this could easily be reverse. So
Yeah.
like I'm definitely happy with how it's performing, but I'm always keeping that like humble state of mind where I don't want to get ahead of myself or anything like that.
Yeah, I've gotten burned by the market quite a few times. I always think I know more than the market. I get humbled pretty quick sometimes. um, so this is kind of recent. I just kind of want to pick your brain about it. So I had this mentor talk to me, and he makes thousands of dollars trading stocks every day. And I was like, man, can you just tell me, like, how do you do it? Like, what do you do? And he invited me over to his house, and I watched him. And he's kind of a genius, kind of weird guy. But what he does is he wakes up right when the market's open. He looks at the stocks that have the highest volatility, right, and are going in a uptrend, and he basically just buys it right when he looks at it. He has like a few things that he calibrates, but then he puts in and he goes all in. He goes like $3,000 to $4,000 on this stock going green. And he says that he follows the volatility more than anything because volatility leads price. And so he basically buys in at the beginning of the market, chases it, and he watches the clock, and he waits for the 3 minutes, and then he waits for 6 minutes and 9 minutes. And as long as it's green and there's no red candlesticks, he stays in it. As soon as he sees a red candlestick, he gets out. And he did it right in front of me, and he made like $8,000. So ever since I've seen that, I've been freaking out. Like, I'm selling all my shit. I'm gonna go do some stuff on the stock market. But it's not realistic because I keep waking up in the morning and I paper trade a lot, and I do some with my own money. But like I told you, I've been burned. So I'm really trying to be humble, and I'm trying to do this. If you were looking at just volatility, what else do you think would be a good indicator that it's going to go up? Like, do you have any ideas? Just curious.
I mean, I just look at the more fundamentals. Like if price
Yeah.
to sales is something ridiculously high and there's not a precedent in the like of ridiculously high. Like if you're an e-commerce company and you have a price to sales of 20, like a price to sales of 20 is generally considered high. But if you see others that have price to sales of 50, you're like, okay, it's possible for, not to say this thing's going to go from 20 to 50 in price to sales, but there is a precedent for something being that high. So that's more of the stuff I focus on. I'm not a technical guy. Like I don't look at the candlesticks. I don't look at the head and shoulders or anything like that. I just look more at what the company is rather than getting in and out of a position based on what the chart's telling you to do.
Yeah, that guy's a millionaire. So it was just something that I watched, and ever since I've seen it, it bugs me. It's like,
And
I could be
also,
waking
if you
up.
have $1 million, it's easier to make $1,000 a day
Yeah.
through trading.
Yeah, if you're just trying to grow it, like I want to build a small portfolio, but I want to use money that I'm not like necessarily too attached to. Like I just want to learn it because it's like a skill though. If you can make money in the market every day, then that's all you have to do, and you can build that and you can grow it. And it has a very like it sounds sexy is what I'm trying to get at. It's like fun to think about, but in reality, it's a little bit harder. Have you been doing options too, or what kind of trading do you do?
I lightly do options. So I never like to make that more than 1% of my portfolio because you could turn $500 into $100,000, but you could turn $100,000 into $500. Like that's just the nature of options trading. So like two very separate ends of the roller coaster, but I see it as leverage without the margin. That's the way I approach it. I almost always do calls. I don't like doing puts as much, but it can be a really great addition. but I wouldn't make that the main focus of a portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome. What other tips have you been doing to grow your audience? Like, do you have any other ideas?
I would just say creating a lot of content, doing collaborations with people. So interviewing people on the podcast, telling them, hey, your episode's live. Like I like to do almost all my episodes with people because that's going to help me grow my audience more than if I'm only doing solo. There is a value in solo episodes to get to relate to your audience more. Maybe you promote a product or something like that. But the collaborations work very well. And then just constantly looking at the data to see what works. Like to me, I'm very data oriented. Like if the data tells me to do this, I'll do it. Like that's why I shifted to talk about stocks and investing. And it is a topic I cared about before I talked about it on my channel. So it's not like this new hot trend came onto TikTok and I was like, I have to talk about this because it's doing well on TikTok or whatever. I actually cared about this stuff before getting into it. But I'm very data oriented and that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, it helps you grow. Well, it's just good to make content that the people want, So, I mean, how else are you seeing what kind of content to make? Just like if something works, you double down, or what do you think?
If something works, I double down. Sometimes I'll look at the comments. Like some people suggest I cover certain stocks or I talk about a certain group of stocks, and I'll base my content around what works the most, like which videos gain the most traction, which blog posts, which Medium articles, which podcast episodes. And I'll have audience feedback as well, because at the end of the day, you're creating the content for the audience. And if they tell you that they want something, then it's just easier to provide for them.
I know, man. Damn it. I need to stop making content for myself. Make it for the people, man. Yeah, no, I've been doing tons of interviews and I've just been talking to such cool people, and I just really love it. And now I want to keep it growing, and I want to make it a whole brand and build it into a thing. So how many years do you think you've been podcasting and YouTubing?
Podcast, YouTubing, I've been doing that for 10 years, but again, very on and off. Podcasting, I've been locked in since 2016. That one, I've always been consistent with Breakthrough Success, at least one episode a week, although now it's like 2 to 3 episodes a week. It definitely takes time. You can get there quicker with the right focus, with the right priorities, but no matter who you are, it is going to take some time.
Yeah. So you have any tips for doing research on certain stocks? Like what websites are you looking at, or what's working for you?
I really like the Fidelity stock screener because I could say I want companies that do 20% more in revenue each year, have a price of sales in this range or in this sector. There's a lot of approaches you could take, because part of it is just finding tickers at the beginning. Like you just want to find different companies and then you get a better idea of which ones are good, which ones are bad. So I like stock screeners. There's also something on Yahoo Finance that lets you see which companies are reporting earnings this week. So you get to see hundreds, if not thousands of companies, just based on how deep you want to go into it, that you would not have known about before that are reporting earnings. And that's a good way to come across new companies that could be good or could be bad. But the more you see, the more you understand or get a feel of what's good or what's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Especially before earnings, if you do a good video and everybody blows up or something, that's kind of fun. That's so cool. So what other writing stuff you got going on? Are you writing any more books, or?
I'm doing more books. It's something I've been taking a little bit of a break from, but now I'm going back into it. I mean, at the end of the day, I just got to write 1,000 words per day. And then with that pace, I could do a book a month. So some money/investing books just based on the direction of my current audience, but I am doing a lot of content marketing books, self-publishing books as well, because I want to be able to cater to both audiences rather than just the new money and investing audience.
Yeah. So if you said if you stick to 1,000 words a day, you get a book a month.
Yeah, I go for 20,000 words for my books. It's not like I'm writing a novel or anything like that. So 20,000 is enough for me.
And then you put them on Amazon and everything else, and they sell pretty good.
Yeah, they sell pretty good. I run ads for them. I promote to my email list when they come out. For some, I do a book launch team. I've just been not doing that as much just because of the frequency of books I publish. It's just too hard timing wise to set up a book launch if you're doing a book a month or even a book every 6 to 8 weeks. But it's been doing good.
That's cool. What's your most successful book?
Podcast domination. That's definitely a lot of people want to learn how to start a podcast or grow it.
I've been thinking about making a course for podcasts, so that's good to hear. How big is your podcast getting? Are you getting a lot of engagement from that, or how have you been connecting with your podcast people?
A lot of it has been the guests bringing on the listeners, and then some people will shoot me an email. And the numbers, again, they've been going up a lot. So just a lot of people have really been enjoying the show lately, and I'm definitely excited to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then, do you just write books on what you're inspired about, or do you also kind of like split test or figure out what people are into?
So sometimes I'll write books just based on like what I feel like doing because I like to have some of that flexibility, but I do usually look at the data, see what people want the most, what people think of my content, what people engage with the most, and then focus on those areas. So it's definitely a little bit of a mix, but I do gravitate more towards the data.
That's so cool. And then, how long are the Medium articles that you're writing?
I go for somewhere 1,000 words. That's my sweet spot for me. Like I don't want to make them too short where people just like it's a quick read and then they move on to the next thing. I'd rather have people spend more time reading the Medium articles because then they're more likely to engage or subscribe to my email list.
That's cool. And then you just have like your how to get in contact at the bottom, like a call to action or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. And then like, is there like a wall at the entry to get on Medium, or you just got to write really awesome content?
You just write really good content and you can get it into publication like Medium publications as well. That's a great way to further expand. But the walls really aren't there for the contributors. Like you just write content. If it's good, it connects, and you could then proceed to really expand.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm really into like copywriting, so I'm kind of been trying to master copywriting and get more out there. And I feel like I should do more articles to tell people how to write copy or psychology of sales and things like that. That's pretty sweet. What else are you up to that's just like kind of working well or that you're enjoying?
I'd say that's just a lot of the main stuff I'm doing. Just doubling down. Like I don't want to put too much on my plate because then you lose focus and you're
Mm.
mediocre at a bunch of things instead of really good at a few things. So I've just been getting a lot better at narrowing my focus so I could go all in on fewer things.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's there's so many things you can do, especially with content, especially with this whole like rat race of constantly trying to stay relevant and things like that. What has helped you focus, or what have you helped you decide what to focus on?
I always look at the data. So, like Medium, the fact that I've been seeing my traffic numbers go up a lot, the fact that on YouTube I've been seeing my traffic numbers go up a lot, and that it translates into email subscribers. That's just how I decide to focus. Like, if like, I understand stuff takes time. Like YouTube, that takes time. Like, it's not like you get a big channel day one, but if you're doing something for like 6 months, lots of time, not much money to show for it, you're feeling a little discouraged or you're just not seeing things pan out, then that's where you might want to take a break from it for a little bit and look at what are the income streams that are producing right now? What are the opportunities that I can scale up and expand at a better rate versus some of the stuff that maybe feels like dead weight to me?
Yeah, that's awesome. You have any tips for getting more email subscribers? Like what are you doing for call to actions or offering people?
I would just say have all of your platforms focus on growing the emails. Like that's the most important part. Like that's the one audience you truly own. Especially with social media, they could change the algorithm at any time. They could kick people off at certain points. Like they have the power. Like they provide you with the community to engage with, and social media is really great. But you don't have full control over those platforms. They could do whatever they want at any time. But when you have people on your email list, like you could communicate with them pretty regularly whenever you want. So have all of your platforms have some type of call to action to get people on your email list, whether it's the bottom of the Medium article, it's the top of the YouTube description, or it's in your podcast show notes. But have a way on all of your platforms to grow the email list. So it's not just people seeing your content once and then, oh, that was great content, and then they disappear forever.
Right. What do you like? So you're offering obviously like what are you offering? Like a free book or a free course, or is it just like, hey, hit me up? Or
So for the investing, I just have a newsletter. For the podcasting, I have a free 5-day podcast launch mini course. markguberti.com/5-day podcast launch is the link, all one word. But that's what I like to offer to people who are more interested in podcasting. Maybe they tried once to start a podcast and it didn't work, or they've heard good things about it and want to get on board but don't know the tech.
yeah, that's awesome. How often do you email your list?
Probably multiple times a week. So anywhere from like I'd say 3 to 5 days a week.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I debate if I should email them every single day that I put out a new episode, but I probably should. I don't think they'd get mad. It's just kind of like one of those things. It's also just getting through that breakthrough of sitting down to write the email.
Yeah.
You want it to be good and you want it to keep them engaged and keep it going. That's awesome. Have you had any like success stories with any of the stocks you've been looking at?
I mean, some stocks have done better than others. I mean, I've done a lot of coverage on Magnite on the channel when it was like $20. Now it's around 60. That's just one I can remember. Not everything pans out like that, but I'm definitely happy with how that stock has performed.
Yeah, that's awesome. You think you'll be doing like daily stock tips for a long time now?
Probably like 4 to 5 videos a week. Like I don't want to do daily because then it's like you're always on this constant grind and because you got to have like, in my opinion, you got to have like the time when you distance yourself a little bit from the work. Like you don't want it to be like, like where days blend together. But it is definitely something I do see myself continuing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then have you noticed any like good like different headlines that really work and get more clicks for the stock stuff? Or is it just like having the ticker symbol in the headline kind of works?
The ticker symbol really helps a lot.
Yeah, just put in the ticker symbol, the tag, and like the description, and have your good head. What is it called? Your picture of the videos, like make it stand out or similar to the thumbnail. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what YouTube is. Like I have all these theories because I do SEO and like what else, but it's all just like click through, engagement, and watch time. And if you can just kind of figure out what people want and you can get them to watch it, like you're just going to be successful or more successful. So. I'm just talking to myself, I guess, how to get more people, man. Start loving, sharing the message, That's awesome. Well, man, why don't you tell everybody like the best ways to get in contact with you and where to reach you online?
So Breakthrough Success is the name of my podcast. You could also search Marc Guberti, Marc with a C, across all like different stuff like YouTube. You'll find me there. You'll find me on Medium. You'll find me on a lot of cool places, or you just go to marcguberti.com. I also do have a lot of books on Amazon for people who want to learn digital marketing.
That's awesome, man. So I'm all about like the listener's success. Do you have any other tips on just being successful that we might not have touched on?
I would just say have a focus on the long term. The people who like usually like they don't do what they want to do, like shiny object, like you bounce from one thing to the other. But all the stuff truly does take time. So I would just say have a long-term focus and always remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that kind of takes me into my next question. So what I'm asking all my guests is kind of what motivates you or what is motivation?
I'm motivated just by the desire to constantly improve. So I'm a runner. And just the idea of trimming down my marathon time, qualify for certain races, like because I've hit a standard, I should be able to surpass it. Like if you've done something, then you can inch up a little more. Like you could have sprinted harder at the finish line to trim down your time. So I'm very about just seeing what I'm capable of doing, and in the process, then being able to provide resources for people who maybe they don't know. Like maybe they're looking for good stock suggestions or looking for ways to sell books. But I'm very much about like you got one shot to do all the stuff you want to do to make the impact you want to have. Like a big thing for me early on was like show young people that you can be successful at a young age. And I always saw that if they see this person doing stuff at like 16, 17, 18, I'm 23 now, but they see that, like maybe they think for themselves, or maybe parents tell their children. Like that was like a main point for me back then, a little bit now as well, but it's also, you can do more, and just to constantly challenge yourself to set that next mark for yourself.
I love it, man. I didn't know you were a runner. How often do you run?
I do daily. I'm really into it. Like I want to get into New York City, Boston, Chicago. I want to do all of those.
Yeah, just like marathon running. That's pretty hardcore, dude. That's pretty awesome, though. I remember actually, I started watching you back in the day, and you used to do these virtual summits. You mind just telling everybody a little bit about like how those are, or how you set them up, or what you did?
Virtual summits are a very big time commitment. It's like a podcast, but instead of releasing the episodes weekly, you just release them all in just a span of like 2 to 3 days, just like an event, but it's virtual. And you get the speakers to promote, they tell their email list about you, and it's a really great way to grow your email list. And then you can have some back end in there as well. Now, they do take considerable time. So I would suggest if you're starting, just do 20 speakers. My first virtual summit had 50 speakers. That was very stressful at times. It panned out. It worked very nicely, but it is stressful to do something with 50. So I would say 20 speakers to start. That's a really good number. And if the speakers do promote the event to their audiences, it allows you to grow very quickly. You get realistically, a lot of summits can get hundreds of new subscribers very easily for your email list. And if you do one each month, that means hundreds of new subscribers each month. Some even get over 1,000 email subscribers each month. Like there are people who they get even 10,000 subscribers for their summits. But a lot of it is based on speakers you have on your summit and advertising. But very realistically, a lot of people could go out there, bring on speakers, and get like 100+ people on their email list just from that summit.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just been something I've been thinking about. And then I talked to a lot of like public speaking people, and they're all just doing virtual summits now. So it just is kind of cool. And you were one of the first people I saw that did it, though. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
No worries, man. Well, Mark, it's been really great having you on today. I really appreciate it. Is there any other last thoughts that you have before we wrap up?
I would just say, again, like have that why, understand why you're doing what you're doing. If you ask yourself why like 5 times, you'll figure out the true why, because some people put up a front for like why they're doing something. But if you dig deeper, you will figure out the true purpose behind what you're doing. And that will help you when maybe the data doesn't look good, or maybe you feel discouraged. And it's just important to remember why you're doing what you're doing.
I love it, man. I think if you figure out your why, you can conquer any how. I think that's how the quote goes, something like that. Well, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate you having on. And thanks everybody for investing in time to listen to us today or watch us on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe. And if you learn anything, be sure to share it with somebody else that you would like to learn something too. Thank you, everybody. Bye.